Welcome. We're at Tech Week 2020 talking about workspace and how virtual tools can help optimise the workplace and accelerate changes to new ways of working. In this session, we're going to be mixing it up with some video clips, sharing knowledge and insights through our panel discussion and taking some questions from you out there. So it won't be all just talk to slides. There's plenty to see, hear from and take away to improve your customer, your employee and your wider workplace experience for your people. Did you know that today in Auckland alone, there are vast amounts of office-type workplace floor area, the equivalent of 35 commercial bays, the newly opened tallest tower in town, all arguably potentially redundant based on recent events. All of us have shifted quickly to respond to working from home and then returning back to work. Many workplaces are now reflecting that abrupt experience and seizing on the gains that have been made through this virtual working experiment in the crisis and choosing what we take to make part of our new brave way forward. How much are we going to celebrate remote working? Hybrid teaming models, agility, flexibility, working in a hyper-connected way. These are no longer part of the distant future. They are a key part of critical business response today. With everything pretty much turning on its head overnight, we have all learnt quite how much pace matters and that we can't control everything. We don't simply have 5 years in order to change our work habits, work patterns, and the way that we work together. We need to be responsive fast. We need to have experiences of the humankind front of mind and the flexibility to continue evolving this. And so we need to understand how to do that without delay, without being costly or making the wrong turn and becoming irrelevant. In this session, we'll discuss the technology and its role in transforming your workspace and the 3 discussion points. The first is maximising the user experience, involving and engaging as we go. Secondly, failing fast digitally instead of expensively for real. And then reframing tomorrow's spaces today, keeping it really flexible. As we'll see in the first video clip. We've got something there, Nathan? So, to introduce your panel today and our whereabouts, we're coming to you from an Amongst Context Auckland studio in Kingsland. And for those who work here, you may notice them moving about, going about their work as we beam out today. I'm Stella Green, and our team at Be Confident pulled together this panel of experts as we really believe in the success of shifting mindsets and cultures comes from integrating that human lens in with amazing technology and inspiring workspaces. And we've been working with the team at Context, and we love the way they innovate. So I'd firstly like to introduce Murray Jarvis, who's an architect and principal here at Context, leading the retail and interiors team. And Nathan Chong, Context's emerging tech guru with his own IT innovation systems brand of digital wizardry. We encourage you to join in the conversation, post any burning questions that you have in the chat function in Zoom. Behind the scenes, we have Safira Abdat from Be Confident. And one of our expert change facilitators who'll be monitoring the chat and posing some of your questions to the panel at breaks in the discussion. So we'll be following up today's session with a series of links and info for those of you wanting to go further into the subject. So let's get into it, starting with the maximising the user experience and how we use great tech to get buy-in. So if you'd like to go for the next clip.
Designed as a virtual workplace building from the outset, we created this configurable model to ensure early engagement with our client stakeholders, seen here enjoying an immersive VR experience. The model was also later shared with the client to help train staff in the virtual workspace long before it was a completed building. A joint project with Be Confident, this virtual wayfinding model demonstrates how technology can help the change process, in this case, to guide users through the new building. This is Ryan Fleming from Fletcher Living. We'd like to share with you his client testimony to the virtual building process and his user or client experience.
Yeah, you pick up a lot more than you would if you're looking at it on a piece of paper or even just on a computer screen in front of you. There's no more of a contour line. You actually see it, you get a feel, you see the retaining walls, you see how big they are, you see how minor they may be as well. So it's just really immersive, and it's a great experience as well. You get really excited, really encouraged as to you are walking down the right path, you're looking at the right things, and you're making the right tweaks as you go along. So yeah, it's really good.
So, as you would have seen in that video there, tech provides us with a very, very highly accessible way of sharing design solutions and options and the possibilities that are associated with every iteration that comes along the project. In today's day and age, we have tools such as virtual reality and also augmented reality, tools that you may have heard of before. And applications of AR or VR can either come in fully immersive experiences, such as the use of a full-blown headset that you put on, or just simply taking someone through a design using Google Cardboard goggles and just your mobile phone. Whatever the tools that you use, these options offer immersive but personalized experiences, and they transport people into the possibilities of their future space and their future design. Now, the reason why we use these tools is because it allows us or allows our clients to provide genuine feedback on the spot. And for us, this allows us to make quick changes, which greatly increases the speed at which we move through that entire design process, and the speed with which the client receives ultimately their desired outcome in the project. Now, when we do this, the objective is to take our client or allow our clients to have an active, vital role in this whole experience, and to do so without having any specialist skill sets. These tools are usable for everyone. I think, Murray, I'm going to hand over to you to talk a little bit more about how we engage our stakeholders.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. So yeah, part of kind of my role here at Context is to really work with our clients and to really help them get the best experience possible, when they're working with us. So I'm going to wind the clock back a little bit here and take you back to a number of years ago. And unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember the days of working with when architects used to work with tracing paper and rotoring pens. It was a truly tortuous process. You kept your clients at arm's length because inevitably, if they come in, they might want changes, and the whole redraw idea was a total anathema to everybody. So you ended up at the end of a project, you were going there on the final day, hoping that it was going to be how you imagined it and hoping your client was going to like it. So, I mean, that was then. Things improved with CAD iterations, become sort of more quick and easy to do. But, there was still a kind of a feeling within the industry that was the way we worked, and it was more about the kind of big reveal at the end of the process rather than kind of engaging people, every day as they go through. Mm-hmm. So thankfully, hallelujah, things have changed. We design virtually now. We design virtual buildings. We create effectively what you might call a virtual twin for the real building, and it's great because it's now a completely egalitarian process. We are allowed to bring our clients in the early part of that, so they really, as Nathan mentioned, they understand what it is that we're trying to create, and actually we get really good instant feedback from them at the same time. It's just incredibly valuable. So again, as we say, we work in AR, we work in VR. We also have a process called BIMX. These are really great tools to kind of explain the process to clients. They're, of course, just our digital tools. Effectively, they're the same as the pencil was a number of years ago. But we still got to provide them all with great design solutions that you can't hide behind the technology. So really, the key thing here is that to talk to you all is that the new processes allow much more open, collaborative kind of sharing process, and that's really the difference to the way that we work now than perhaps the way that we worked 5 or 10 or 20 years ago. That's the way it's all changed now. So Stella, you're going to talk to everybody now about the people perspective on UX.
Yeah, great, thanks, Murray. And it's just a great lead-in when we're thinking about the transformative nature of some of these projects. It means that we can engage users far more widely and get greater levels of buy-in to the new ideas. We can use these tools in conjunction with other virtual tools, virtual canvases, tracking and project tools to help us test perceived levels of usage of the space, heat mapping, utilisation tools and studies to help us understand how we need to offset the real use cases against the perceived behaviours that people have. So when we engage more widely, we're often asking that we are bringing people on-site and off-site into the conversations to provide a greater richness, a more diverse lot of thinking into what that future piece of the workspace is going to look like. That next generation that are part of that wider group are going to be the users of the building because it's going to last for so long. So we often need to do a wider scan. I'm thinking of a recent virtual collaboration where we involved 60 people in a review of design boards and testing, critiquing, evaluating some of the scenarios that have been put up and looking into what it meant to their different working styles from across the organisation. We had people from different locations involved. We had people from a real mixture of the different layers and operational teams within the organisation. And we use this sort of swarming style of collaboration to bring in and get the ideas from different types of people. So allowing people to join in the conversation through brainwriting or other tools that suit us to be not necessarily just talking in a workshop scenario, that we're reviewing what each other thinks, we're writing, we're working at times even in silence to scan and review and to distill the ideas down into some sort of clusters of thinking so that we can really listen to what that wider group is helping us to understand. We're effectively taking a walk in their moccasins, where they're going on their journey as to what happens for them and their different teams on any given day, and we're walking through what happens for them as they go about their teaming, their hosting, their different operational roles, the way that they are partnering in with different teams cross-functionally in the business. And we really start to journey map as to what's going on for them and how they want to change that up into the future way of working and what that means for them to think about the change they're going to go through. So we create these human-centered design labs, and we focus in on those elements that are going to matter most. It's not just a walk through from the building, it's actually about the experience of being in that space. And these tools help us to understand what it is going to mean in this really very real kind of way. We know from the research internationally and locally that there's a large appetite for people to work remotely, and over 50% of the people surveyed actually are prepared to give up an allocated desk in order to have that right to work remotely. So that starts to make the equation work a whole lot better in terms of what is this need for the workspace and what does that mean for us. We set this up for a food client actually pre-COVID, but thinking in terms of the brave new world going forward and having agility, which rhymes with stability, being the brave way that we need to keep our organisation stable in these really disrupted times by having huge amounts of agility. What that meant for them was that we totally changed the way that space was laid out. A whole floor of desks went, and instead we gained maker spaces, collaboration spaces where we could test the technology and use the menu-driven kind of food lab environments to all come together and work and innovate and ideate in these combined spaces. Complete transformation of the initial ideas of floor area, and that was really important in terms of that feedback that came from those wider groups that maybe didn't have a voice before. We're looking for that massive lift that we get from going from having highly engaged staff at 140% levels up to inspired, 220% worth of effort going in. So when we engage with these stakeholders, we're really asking them to take on board some new ideas, and these are great tools for that. Mm. And we have some questions at all, Vera.
There is a viewer here that is wondering, how believable is the VR experience for users? Murray, could you please answer that?
Yep, that's a question I can answer. Yeah, of course, I'm a real advocate for it. But the short answer to that question is it's just incredibly believable. One of the hardest things for an architect or a designer to kind of convey to a client or to a user group is the concept of space. It's really difficult. You can prepare drawings, plans, sections, perspectives, mood boards, all that kind of stuff. But you're asking your client to kind of make that leap from what's on the page to how they perceive it inside their own mind. So what VR does is it actually just takes them there instantly. So everybody instinctively understands how they we all understand space. So everybody we all know how to react to space. It either feels right, too big, too small, yep. Whatever. So everybody gets it. And then the other thing, of course, again with the technology is the surfacing that you can put onside these models is absolutely first class. The finishing, the lighting, the textures, the materiality, all of these things are just really, really believable. The technology has been getting exponentially better over the last few years, and it's absolutely fantastic how real it is. I'm going to take you now on another little journey, if I may. Here, from time to time we bring our kind of clients in for an evening of just to sort of getting to know each other. We might have a glass of wine or something, but we'll sometimes use the technology to play games. It's quite good for that as well. So one of the games being Walk the Plank. We ask our clients to put on the goggles. We take them up a virtual elevator out onto the roof. There's virtual helicopters and birds flying underneath them. The air conditioning is blowing cold air on the back of their neck, so it's now feeling pretty believable. And the idea is you walk out on this plank, put a real plank on the floor as well, so it wobbles a little bit too. That makes it even better. So they're meant to walk out, pirouette on the end, and kind of walk back. Actually, if you step off this plank, though, you do actually virtually fall down the building, fall off the building. It is fairly terrifying as it happens. Anyway, so the chap in question was asked to jump off the building, and kind of we were just expecting him to step off like everybody else did. But no, he decided to take a running jump, flew through the air, and landed kind of flat in his face on the boardroom carpet. So that's really just to kind of explain how in the moment it can feel. So yes, so Sophia, that's it. It feels incredibly believable. It's definitely believable. Yes.
This is a question for you, Stella. How do you identify a person's work style?
Oh, right. Well, we look to some of what we spoke earlier about in terms of the different teaming ways and methods that they work. That might be the agile methodology that we talked a bit about. We look at the different key activities that they're involved with, the ways that projects are run. And then we're looking into some of the large-scale data sets that we have from around New Zealand, where we've profiled a number of different organisations. There's really no one-size-fits-all type of solution to this, and then we design the work styles to fit in with the work experiences that we're looking to achieve overall.
And this is a question for you, Nathan.
Oh.
What is the kit outlay required by a typical business wanting to design and change their workplaces?
Yeah, that's a good question, because sometimes when you think of technology, you think, oh, very expensive because it's going to be very flash. But in this type of process here, our clients don't actually have to outlay anything. That's because we generally invite our clients to come to our studio, and if they want that full-blown immersive experience, we can provide that for them through the tech that we have here. But at the same time, if they want something to take away in their own kind of hands, you could say, we can give them a virtual building, or we can also give them an AR or VR experience just through the use of their mobile phone. And as I mentioned before, when I spoke previously, you can have that immersive experience just by using Google Cardboard and some apps that are on your phone. So you've got, I guess, scale there. If you want a full-blown experience, you can do that. But at the same time, if you just want something that's very simple, but to show maybe to your friends or just have in the back of your pocket, that's also another very cost-effective way, you could say, that we can give you some digital or virtual buildings for our clients to have.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing to add in there is when it's on their phone, if they're going down that route, once we've updated the virtual building, we can just send them a ping to their mobile phone, and instantly they've got the latest version of the digital model. So it's pretty interactive, and allows us to really iterate quickly and and keep up to date with what they're thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Thanks, guys, and that's all the questions we have for now.
Cool.
Wonderful. Okay, well, let's move on to the Fail Fast Digitally. Have we got a clip on that one, Nathan?
We do.
Here you can see how we undertake 3D point cloud scanning. It's a quick and easy process, able to be undertaken without disrupting your own work processes. This data is then captured in our CAD software to create quick-fire 3D models that can then be used in building scenarios for discussion. From the point cloud, we can then surface this into a readable 3D interior. See how quickly we can manipulate the data into a usable format, allowing us to make more informed decisions. The point dots allow us to create surfaces accurate to within a few millimeters, so it's a really useful tool for property managers in terms of getting great data about your building. Once you have the point cloud information morphed into a building or workspace, it's easy to show a client what a range of alternative ideas might look like. In this case, pop-up meeting spaces. Now we'll take you back to another 3D model, but one in which we gamified it and created a series of preset conditions. These are revealed by the click of a button to the client when they're embedded within the model, and so we're able to experience quickly how the different scenarios felt, to test them, and to ascertain whether we should rethink any of them. Here we allow our clients to try out different furniture arrangements, to test them, and to see how they react or feel to the alternative layouts. It feels very real as we can program the objects to behave with gravity, even if they have no physical weight. You can rearrange the desks or furniture with a click and a wave of your arms. It really is like magic.
Thanks, Nathan. Okay, so we've one of the questions we got asked earlier in the week, because we've been running this presentation a couple of times before, was that all looks pretty fancy, all that kind of point cloud scanning stuff. Is it expensive? And yeah, of course, in that particular case, yes, the answer is expensive. But you know, it's our investment in the kind of future. It's not something it then becomes the ability for us to have digital input into our system to allow us to have the digital output at the other end. So it really helps us as architects and designers with our workflow kind of processes. So it's really now a kind of essential tool for us to really quickly get great quality data for a space. You know, actually that was our office that you saw being scanned there. The guys scanned that in about 20 minutes, probably even less than that, and we've then got a fully functioning kind of 3D model. That particular tool, the mobile point cloud scanner, it's a very new piece of kit. At the moment, there's only ourselves and the distributors who've actually got that particular piece of kit in the country. So we're really experimenting with it, and we're finding it just amazingly useful to get great quality data, which is where you kind of start all the processes out. So all our workflows are geared around that now. And what that allows, and of course, the gamification you saw in a couple of the models there is great fun, and it makes it really engaging for our clients to be part of that space. But what it ultimately allows them to do as well is they can move the kit around inside the model. They can reposition. You can reposition desks. You can just pick them up using the tools and move them around. So this is where when we're talking about fail fast digitally. That's really what that allows us to do. So our clients are in that sort of space. They're able to pick stuff up and go, do you know what? I think that kind of thing should be over there. We can move it around. It's a really quick and it's a really honest process for them to get their sort of feedback for it. So really, whilst that piece of kit is expensive, what it does do is it saves time, and that's the real kind of benefit from it. It reduces risk for our clients, you know, and for us as well, because nobody wants to do things, you know, get things wrong. So it allows us all to work together on a pathway together, making sure that we're doing the right thing, aiming towards the right result, and ultimately that is a reduced risk of outcome for the client, for the workspace user, whoever it happens to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Stella, you're now going to talk to us about the people perspective in terms of fail fast digitally.
Sure, great. Thanks, Murray. We certainly are being asked more and often now to put together multiple scenarios for the varying different people views that come into the needs analysis. How far can we stretch people's ability to expect our people to adapt to these new ways of working? Option A, option B, option C. You know, which one are people going to have the greatest impacts on their current way of working? What would happen if we took out a number of desks, if we increased the ratio of the collaboration spaces? When we're asked this question about what is the right amount of space for people, particularly with what's been going on recently in terms of the accelerated remote working. I call it the enlightened revolution for virtual working. So to help us accelerate the ability to answer that, we need to use some of these virtual tools, which is really helpful for not, just showing us the building, but going right through that human experience of working through, as Murray's spoken about. So when we're asked about how people might need to reframe the way that they come together, then they've got a better opportunity to actually explore that and think it through. We know from the change and people behaviour studies that the workplace is a more complex way of working, and the change is not simplistic or linear. It takes a whole lot more than the classic 21 days for a new habit to be formed within the workspace. It in fact takes hundreds of days, and depending on the layers of the complexity in there. So we need to form that up into a plan, a program of change for people to adapt. And we need to, along the way, keep that experimentation nature working and use these tools to help us fail fast digitally, so that we can mix it up with the virtual piloting and some physical piloting and some cadences, some new rhythms that we want to put in from a behavioural perspective. There's some really important tools that are needed to help guide us when we're putting up the numbers for the people and the numbers financially, and to help us understand what is the risk profile that go with each set of those numbers. And it's important the number of uptakes we're expecting from people adapting, how much of the technology that's in the workspace are people going to be encouraged to use, and what does that replace? What are we taking away so that we've got these cleaner, more flexible, hyper-connected environments? How much are we expecting people to adapt, and at what rate is part of what we're looking at there. So when we're thinking of these new ways of being organised and that, we're putting ourselves in the hands of some of the digital wizardry. And so I'll ask Nathan, please tell me how you go about creating that.
Yeah, sure. So at context here, you would have seen that previous video. We use laser scanning tools to very accurately measure out spaces, both internally and externally. And along with that, we also capture aerial data when it's needed in limited access areas through the use of drones. The technology that's used in this type of equipment is called photogrammetry and point cloud. So photogrammetry is the ability to take images, multiple images, and use the embedded data or the GPS or location data to form what's called a point cloud. And the point cloud is basically a digital mesh, a very, very photorealistic digital mesh of a physical environment. And you saw some of that in the video just before. Now, when you combine that kind of technology with the other technologies such as AR and VR, this allows us to quickly recreate any type of physical environment. And this saves so much time, sorry about that, saves so much time and money. So you can compare this method, say, for example, to using a tape measure. Now, can you imagine using a tape measure on your office space and having to physically measure out your space? That would take you days, if not weeks, depending on the size of your office space. And so you can quickly see why this technology is so beneficial. 3D scanning is at minimum 3.5 times faster and exponentially a lot more accurate, because when you measure with a tape and you have to really know your space so that you can accurately do that. And a lot of the times you're actually doing a lot of guesswork and assumptions when you are manually measuring up. And so all of that gets taken out when you do a 3D scan. It's very accurate and very quick in comparison to the old way of measuring up. So what does this mean? Well, this means that our design becomes more of a co-creation process through the use of these tools. And we can quickly recreate an existing space, use that data to then shape up different design scenarios. And so more of the time is actually spent on the design process rather than the manual labor process of measuring up an existing space. So you get to spend more time with your client looking at various designs that will suit their space. And so going forward, this gives the client more than one option to compare, contrast, and then refine together with us.
Hey, Nathan, perhaps you can just tell everybody a little bit more about the accuracy that the point cloud scan can achieve, and some of the ways in which you can also use it to get into high sort of spaces.
Yeah, we're working with a client at the moment who's wanting us to scan an outdoor canopy. It's about 20 meters high. So you can imagine all the health and safety issues that go along with that. You need proper rigging, scaffolding, and then again, cost along with that. So our client here in this particular case has decided, why not we use this type of technology, because this technology can get us a photorealistic view of this canopy, and also accuracy down to 2 millimeters. Again, it just makes sense because it's way more cost effective, it's faster, and as far as health and safety goes, far more effective.
And that's way more accurate than I ever was with a tape measure.
Yeah. Cool. So I think we've got a few questions, don't we, Sapira?
Yes, there are a few questions here. The first one here is for Stella. You mentioned trialing and piloting. How much do you recommend an organisation do?
Oh, well, I think I mentioned in terms of I really like to see us mix it up with the physical pilots and the virtual pilots, and that we keep that mode of experimentation rolling. So when we're doing the physical layout pilots or experience centres, as we call them, there's a lot of cost in that, and then we've got to make sure that the different teams will get a chance to have a go at that. So we need to have worked through a few options before we go to that full layout. Sometimes we just simply don't have the space to do that. Other times it's really important and we might have multiple pilots. So I think it's about the actual work experience change that we're bringing about and how big a leap that is for the different teams, and who might need to occupy a space for longer if we're going to do it physically. So you're a bit of a combination really, and a job by job.
Thank you, Stella. This one's for you, Murray.
Okay.
Who would use these scenarios and how? So with the new technology that we have.
Okay. Yeah. No. I can answer that. The answer to that really is that in order to sort of fail fast digitally, you've got to protect your two most important assets, your people and your property. So really this technology is incredibly useful for anybody who effectively feels that they need to make some change in either of these aspects. And and of course in general that of course is all of us. What it does, and we've kind of touched on that, is it allows you to get to the point where you can test and iterate really quickly. And as Nathan said, as us as architects and designers to spend more time designing and less time kind of measuring. So we've got that information. So because we've got more time to do that, we can make more iterations. We can trial, test, fail, fail again, get it right the next time. So and as part of that, we do try and invite our clients into that whole sort of process. So ultimately, it really offers the client or the user just much more choice and a better understanding of where it is that we're going to go, and give them much more confidence going forward. So I hope that answers your question, Sophia.
Thank you. And one of our viewers here are a great fan of the Your Homemade Perfect design show. So Nathan, she's wondering, how much choice in design do your clients really have when they walk through virtually?
Yeah, quite a lot actually, because you'll notice that one of the things that you see on that program is the emotional attachment that people get, especially because it's their space. Our owners, of a workspace or perhaps a residential home, they have a natural emotional attachment to it because it's part of their life. So naturally, you're going along with that, you're going to get a lot of feedback, and you're going to get a lot of input from them because they know that space really, really well. And so people then find it much easier to digest information that you give to them in a very visual way. However, one thing you'll notice on that particular program that you mentioned there is that designer generally comes up with the solution and then presents their idea as the final solution. Here at Context, we work a little bit differently. We use the same technology, but we use it in a way that allows us to garner feedback from the client and work with them on several iterations that will suit. So they get choice, and they get choice very quickly because we use these tools with them. And so those tools allow us to get that feedback and allows our designers to give them iterations quickly and changes in a digital format so that they can see them quickly. And also, as I mentioned, on their mobile phone, they can take it away and digest that information in their own time. And so we, as part of that process, we have a much faster process and project completion.
Well, thank you. And that's all the questions we have for now.
Wonderful. Okay, so shall we move on to reframing tomorrow's spaces today? Have you got another magic clip?
Cool.
These video sequences incorporate a photogrammetry process. We flew our drone around the building exterior, taking thousands of images, which were then used to create an external point cloud. Now, the building and its surround has been digitized, we can create a range of scenarios using this data. Many businesses are thinking about reducing floor plate at the moment, as the work from anywhere concept allows ourselves to rethink the workplace. I'd advocate the importance of a light touch, less built-in components with more mobile and transferable pieces, to allow flex and agility to meet future needs. Using this fail-fast idea process, this furniture-based solution enabled the client to test scenarios for functionality against a budget, refine seat numbers, and develop the spatial arrangements to suit their changing requirements. For example, by testing with many scenarios, we could show that less floor space was required, which also helped reduce cost. We were then able to remove a section of the upper floor, creating this dramatic double-height space without affecting the functionality.
Thanks, Nathan. Hey, so hopefully, now having watched these videos, you can kind of see how the technology, and particularly this sort of point cloud technology, just absolutely revolutionizes what we as architects and designers can do. It's a total game changer for us, and it's actually incredibly exciting to be part of the whole sort of process. But kind of sort of pulling that into today's sort of scenario, and we're talking about work from home, work from anywhere. Of course, it's asking a lot of questions of workplace and workspace for how they might imagine what they have. A number of our clients that we're working with at the moment are really considering having a lot less floor place come lease renewal time than they currently have. Mm-hmm. So what we're able to do with the technology is help them reimagine kind of what that might look like if half of their team are working from home 3 days a week or whatever. How do we lay out the space? How do we rework it? How do we configure it? So the tools allow us to quickly iterate for them. And actually, the majority of times we can do it using their existing furniture. We're not advocating here that it's a great big expensive kind of rebuild. We'll try and work hard with you. Currently, of course, in the current economic climate, it's really important to work with what people have got and make the best of what they've got to get the best outcome for our clients. So really the tools again allow us to iterate quickly. We can change, they easily show them what it would look like if we change the colors, the textures, fabric on the furniture, all that sort of stuff. It's really, really fast just to sort of turn that stuff around. So we can, and actually, as you saw in the other one, you can move the pieces of furniture around themselves, so they can actually become part of that process. And it's just really incredibly engaging for an FM manager or a workplace manager to feel that they're part of the process and that they're not standing on the side. It's really, we certainly believe in that that really strong engagement with them. And another way that again, just to help imagine how that we sometimes do this with our clients, I'm going to sort of ask you to think of yourself walking down like a shopping mall, walking down the middle of that. So instead of having shop units kind of on the left and on the right, what we sometimes do is we'll create different environments, different office environments to the left and to the right, where we're just testing different ideas for them, different layouts, and we allow the client or the stakeholder, whoever it happens to be, to just amble in and out of these spaces kind of virtually, digitally. And of course, we're there taking kind of notes and listening to everything that they say, trying to get all the kind of little nuggets of information that they will give us, because of course they know their business incredibly well. So that's a really easy way for people to kind of give feedback to us, and actually allows them to kind of compare apples with apples, this scheme against that sort of scheme, and they can, and it's just as they react to it inside the headset, we're there kind of gathering up that data, gathering up that information. So that's really how we kind of work in that sort of process. Nathan, I think you're going to take us a little bit more about it from a sort of design technology perspective.
Yeah. So I mentioned we've talked about using point cloud technology and also aerial drone technology, AR, VR. But there's also a lot of back-end technology that we use here at our office. We use a variety of platforms that help to generate these digital outputs. And one of those tools is computer-aided design software, or CAD software. And you can think of CAD software as maybe like a digital Play-Doh. It allows you to be very creative. It allows fast iterations and also a collaborative approach with our clients. And it allows our architects to use that data that we've captured of an existing space, and then along with our client feedback from those 3D experiences that we can give them to recreate a better design that fits their needs, whether it be an office or a residential place, whatever it is. That's what we're aiming to do, to give them a better design, something that they feel very comfortable with and that they can relate to. Now, along with that, we also have other software we use. We use our client portal, our own in-house developed client portal software, to notify our clients of iterations or updates in real time, like what you're mentioning. They can take that design away with them initially, but also as we improve the design, make those iterations from their feedback, that those notifications can come through instantly using that software.
It's quite good. It puts the client in control of their own data, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. So all these processes, all these smart processes, basically allow us to put the power back into our clients' hands, into the hands of the people who will ultimately end up using these spaces, and to keep our clients involved through that entire design journey. I think, Stella, you're going to talk to us a little bit more about the people view.
Yeah. Well, I'm finding that a lot of times we are having our teams morphing and changing within the clients, so that they're moving towards more of a self-managing teams model. And within that comes the different methodologies that they're using within those teams. They're looking to and empower them, and to be, working and solutioning their own way that they are operating, and wanting to encourage the people to be able to use the space for their types of meetings, their ceremonies, their ways of gathering and collaborating together. So that sort of neuroscience of high-performing teams that's being deployed a lot by the human resource organisation is really important now in terms of what that means in terms of the protocol, those work practices that people have, and them understanding that just because they're seeing a layout on the page doesn't mean that they can't alter it to suit their needs, and that it will have this inherent flexibility that we were seeing on those videos. So to let people, understand what permissions they may have, we like to get into play, to gamify some of what we're looking at, and consider ways that they might use this to bridge the gap between their virtual participants, whether they be down country or remote working or whatever, and to mix it up with the people that are physically in the room using some of the tactile tools, but combining the virtual tools. We've just had a recent example where 6 different teams are considering sharing one central collaboration space. They each have very different ways that they want to come together and work. And so the 6 teams actually working through what is the common ground of what they want to use in the space, but how they might lay it out in order to suit their different ways of working. And actually letting them get right into what do we do now, what could we change, what have we been waiting to change over time. Now we've got a much greater number of people coming in virtually. How do we give them a real sense of belonging, a sense of that group work that they're doing, and make it as encouraging for the people to voice their ideas and participate and really be part of this hybrid team. So the tools that we've been showing you today have been really important in working up those scenarios and letting people play with things that in the past have looked like a very finished and beautiful layout, and they haven't necessarily put in the prep time that they need to relay out the space when they start in order to make it way more effective. So these tools are pretty helpful for that combination, and it means that the teams can see that this is going to keep evolving, that they are part of it, and that what they come up with is the answer today may not in fact be their answer in 6 months' time, but that the space will be able to be so cleverly and dynamically built that they can change it as they go. So that's a vital difference now with self-managing teams, I think. So do we have any questions at all from our chat there, Sapphira?
Yes, we do. We have a few questions here. Murray, this one's for you.
Okay.
What is the expected lifespan of a workspace today before it needs changing for tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a pretty tricky one to answer, I think, at the moment. The interesting thing at the moment is that clearly there's a huge amount of uncertainty in the world. We're sitting here. We're able to operate relatively normally, albeit the borders are closed. But of course, you're looking around the world, and it seems to be pretty chaotic everywhere else. So, there's a lot of uncertainty about what's happening in the future. I think anybody that's got a crystal ball that can actually see into the future, that would be a pretty cool thing. But and what I'd probably sort of say here is it's not only workplace that's kind of trying to work out what the future is. You've got the retailers are trying to do the same thing. Currently they're wondering what the dynamic is between physical and online. You've got the banks are trying to work out what's the future of money, what's the future of banking. So I think it's really interesting times at the moment. But clearly there's going to be a lot of change in the future in all sorts of industries. So I guess the point of that kind of preamble really is that it's important to not paint yourself into a corner. So currently, at the moment, we would advocate keeping everything quite light and keeping it nimble. You talk about agility in kind of workplace. We've also got to have agility in mind and thinking here, and say don't do something that locks you into a process. And generally, when we're working with these with people now to create new scenarios, as I said earlier in the chat there, that if we can work with your existing kit as much as we can, that's the way we would do that. So I think, say for the time being, we keep it light, we keep it agile, we keep it nimble. Yeah.
Sorry, this one's for you, Stella. What is the biggest ask of a workspace today to connect with customers and their team to be operational?
Yeah, look, I think it's really about that sustainability, and not just from the fact that we've got a beautiful green plant wall behind us, but I mean that sustainability of the way that we work and the behaviour set that we look to bring forward, and understanding the optimal kind of experiences that we're looking to allow to occur within that space. So spending a bit of time, talking to our teams, talking to our leaders, talking to the individuals that are going to be working in this new way, and having some conversation about what's optimal. I think it's the biggest ask now. Everything's changed.
Thank you. I'd like to end off the question session with this last question here. A bit of a elephant in the room type question. So what is the relevance of a common workspace like an office in a 2020 pandemic world? If you could all put in your view onto this question, please.
Okay. Shall I go first?
Go on then.
Okay, I'll go first. Right. So if work from anywhere, retains its luster, then clearly the role of the office is in question. There's a number of things. There's people kind of say to themselves, oh, why should I struggle into the CBD every day or into the city centre when I can equally work well at home? So there's the work when you can do work from anywhere. If you can do process work, you can do documentation anywhere. What's the reason to come into the office in the first place? So, and really, ultimately, it is answered by the fact that we're social creatures. We like to interact with people, and so the bit that we think will come to the fore is that it's going to be a person-to-person place. So it's a place where you meet your clients, where you can have conversations. It'll be a place where you meet your peers and your work colleagues. If we're just all little kind of specks of light disappearing, in a kind of expanding universe, we're getting further and further apart. So it's really important to bring people together regularly. And every business will have to kind of find out what their own kind of rhythm is for that. But certainly the evidence suggests that teams perform better when they have a mix of space, when they're all brought together and when they're allowed to go out and do kind of process work. So, I think that this kind of brave new world will be a place of kind of conversation, I think. It will probably have some of the functionality that people don't have at home, for example, or offer things that they might not have at home. So you might see more things like a kind of a sort of bar, coffee bar, kind of great kind of end of journey facilities. Maybe offices or workplace might start putting on kind of lunch, things like that, to bring the team together, give them a reason to sort of come into that workspace when actually they can often equally just sort of stay at home. So I think that's the way we kind of see it, but it will be driven by lease renewal time. Every time a lease comes up, that's when it will kind of happen. So it's not something that's going to happen instantly. It'll happen in a kind of natural rhythm as leases come up for renewal. But I think certainly the evidence that we're seeing at the moment is that the people are going to be looking for a reduction in floor space and a change to how they operate their workforce currently. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I certainly agree in terms of the growing confidence that employers have in the virtual workplace for part of the time, and that is a different solution for each different organisation. So, as is the role of the workplace within that, that role of the common space will be different by organisations depending on their different work styles and the different profiles that they have internally and externally. I think that the change framework will need to relate to all of the stakeholders, so the employees, the gig economy workers that they have within that team, their partners, their customers. I think that framework needs to consider that for everyone, all of those parties, this is change, and that they will need to understand what's now possible, what they can and can't do, how that level of autonomy can reach out to each of them, and how that's going to work in a coordinated way, so that it's curated as a work experience, so that people come in and they can find the people they're looking for and they can work together when they are in the office. And then when they're out of the office, that they know how that works for them to be included in what's going on, and that they're feeling like they're involved, and the whole process is pretty inclusive. I think that's going to be what's important.
Yeah. As far as technology's point of view, technology has always been a tool to supplement or to complement, your working environment. And I think we're still going to see a lot of development to bring as we look at reducing office floor space and working remotely. We're going to see a lot more development in that space. We've already kind of been through it when we were in lockdown, utilizing technologies to stay connected while we were in our individual spaces. One thing that perhaps still needs to be addressed is that whole idea about around social connection, because we are very connected people. And so I noticed, most people were very, you could say, happy to finally be able to physically connect with people. And so, and also at the same time, I know a lot of people were kind of tired of using Zoom so much to stay connected, or these video chat apps. So I think there's still a little bit more work to be done in that area, because I think that's quite a key area where people want that physical connection. And I think technology probably will, you'll see a lot more development in that area.
I think we all use that connectivity as central, don't we?
Absolutely.
No matter which angle we're coming from, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
I sort of see it, to use these 3-letter acronyms, as connectivity-based working as we go forward, as a new way of thinking about the workplace. Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for your insightful answers to all those questions. And that's all we have for today.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thanks, team.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching.